Well, happy Sunday evening, everybody. So I just got in from raking leaves and was thinking about fall. Then I started thinking about Thanksgiving. And then I started thinking about food because there's a lot of it. And by the way, you Americans, we Canadians have our Thanksgiving in October. But I'm happy to be invited to your house in November for your Thanksgiving. So anyway, what really got me thinking, or connected to the food, I started thinking about the abundance of food that is around during that holiday. There's no shortage of it. You know, turkey, pie, all kinds of pie, different desserts, blah, blah, a lot of stuff. And it started getting me thinking about something that was very popular when I was a kid, and that was the buffet. So, for those of you who are not familiar with North American culture, well, it's basically defined by eating, which is why we're the fattest people in the world. Well, maybe not the fattest, but we're up there. And it more or less goes like this. There's restaurants that, they have a theme, like, a country theme with like, lots of meat and potatoes and vegetables, that kind of stuff, or a Chinese theme with lots of Chinese type dishes, or a Japanese theme, whatever. But I was a kid, the big buffet restaurant was something like Ponderosa, or there'd be like Boston Market, or other places like this, and they would have everything on the buffet. And so when you're a little kid, the experience typically is that, the first time you go to a buffet, Dad gives you your plate, and you walk up beside him to the buffet, and you can barely see over the edge of the buffet, but you can see all the stuff you don't want to have, like the vegetables, the mixed weird dishes. You don't know what they are, but you could also see your chicken fingers and your fries and your onion rings and your hot dogs and pizza. And, Dad, can I have that? You'd point at it and your dad would load up your plate. And although it necessarily wasn't the best for you, he was happy you were eating and not complaining. And so you go back to your seat. And, essentially that was the deal with the buffet. And the thing as a child that you really loved is that you could go back over and over again and, really work on your gut, which I did as a child. But as you age, you then get into a point where you could go to the buffet on your own. You go to the buffet on your own, and of course, many would still pick the chicken fingers, the pizza, and the onion rings. But you'd start having more adventurous dishes like the Thai dap wai, or the spicy ribs, or the just the stir fries and all the other kind of stuff that when you're a kid you didn't like. But as you got old and your tastes improved, you started taking advantage of them. And sometimes you go to the buffet, depending on the kind of environment you have, you'd have, you'd still be going with your family. Maybe your parents wouldn't care what you're having, just as long as you're having something. Or maybe they would tell you what you're eating, and or give you their opinion on what you're eating, either in a neutral position or in something of a negative position. So, anyway. So when you think about that whole buffet scenario, and then when you got to be an adult, you could just go on your own and get what you want. And I don't know, buffet restaurants have sort of gone out of vogue a little bit in recent history, and maybe it's because of a lot of environmental factors, but the analogy is still very powerful for what we're going to talk about today. You see, life itself is a giant buffet. It is a giant buffet of options. So imagine, if you remember the way buffets used to be, you used to have the salad station, and you'd have the meat station, and you'd have the stir fry station, all those different stations where different dishes would be under it. And you'd go up and pick what you want and fill your plate, and et cetera, et cetera. And so in our modern world, you can go to the buffet, and let's pretend there's the station where there's a potential job. You have on that buffet, you have a job that you can't imagine doing it, so it's the dish you don't want to have. You have the dish that you kind of like and you'll tolerate, but it's not your first choice. You'll have the dish that you really would like to have, but maybe it's the furthest to reach under there, or maybe it's I don't know. For some reason, it seems it doesn't. You're not able to access as much, but it's there, and it's your first choice. Okay. Or imagine there's a buffet station which deals with the kind of partner you could have. It has a whole selection of partners, and this is going to be multi-sex, but you have the dish that's a little bit overdone but really sweet. You have the dish that is super healthy but tastes like garbage. But then you have the one dish which is a combination of, not only is it healthy, but it's sauced just right and it tastes really good. And all these dishes are waiting for you there, and you can pick. And so when you think about the buffet of life and all the things you could pick, I want you to think about how absurd it would be if you were still going to the buffet with people who are telling you what dishes you could have. Imagine you were going to the buffet with a parent, mom or dad, whatever, a friend, a colleague, a child, whoever. Imagine they're going up to the buffet with you and they're whispering in your ear as to what you should have. And their motivations are, well, they're saying, oh, don't eat that, you'll get fat. Or they're saying, oh, don't eat that because I haven't had, what I got is not as good as that. Or they're saying, don't have that because it's too expensive. Or whatever reason they're coming up with, they're standing there whispering in your ear, basically pushing you in a direction that may not even be what you want. Or even worse, you're going up to the buffet and you're filling your plate, but they're waiting back at the table. They're waiting back at the table, and you're praying to sweet Jesus when you get back to the table. They won't comment on the things that you got because it's not going to be a comment that you're going to want to hear. How absurd is that? Well, I got a newsflash for you, friends. The majority of the people in our society are doing that every day. You have influences like, some of you have lovely parents, but there are parents out there who just need to tell you, even when you're an adult, they need to tell you what you should do. You've got friends who need to tell you what you should do. You might have children who need to tell you what you should do. You might have neighbors. You might have work colleagues who need to tell you what you should do. Now, counsel is one thing. Friendly counsel. Counsel that is requested versus volunteered. Those are wonderful things. But being in a situation where you have people who need, you always know that if you're making a decision that someone in your life is going to have to tell you their opinion, and it's likely not going to be how wonderful it is, that's the wrong person to have in your life. As I said, the absurdity is if you always have to have them present in some way, either physically or as if they're occupying space in your mind as you're making decisions. It's almost like the old analogy of the devil and the angel. The devil and the angel is the devil is telling you things like, oh, you don't deserve that. How could you have that? How could you think you could have that? What's going on? And the angel is saying, you deserve it. You've done well. These are things that you're entitled to, and you should feel good about it. The point is, the devil and the angel are actually implanted there by who is in your life pushing your buttons. And so the greatest gift you can give yourself in regard to the buffet of life is ask yourself, who are you going to the buffet with? And further, are the choices you're making rooted in what's good for you and what's good for you long term? Or is it rooted in the getting the approval of people who've done a great job of screwing up their own lives and now they'd like to screw up yours? Or they're in a constant process of screwing up their life and they're like, "Hey, how dare you have a better life than us? We're going to pull you back into the screw job here and we're going to keep screwing you up." How absurd is that? So the point I'm making with this video today is that life is full of abundance. It's full of abundance, but it's also full of things that will, whatever the counter is of abundance, it's full of that too. And you get to pick. You get to go to that partner station and you get to pick. You can pick the overdone, unhealthy dish that's going to taste like shit, but maybe that's all you feel like you deserve. Or you can pick the dish that's hasn't been on the heat rack too long. It's nice and fresh. It's got excellent ingredients. It's well made and is so tasty. The job, same idea. Even your home. You can have a home that's in chaos and disorder and dismay, or you can have one that's all nicely buttoned up and creating that energy in your life which will spill over into other areas. There are many stations in the buffet, and you can go to each of those stations, and instead of listening to these forces that are sitting on your shoulder or standing behind you or waiting at the table to give you their insipid opinion one more time, you don't need to do that. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you've been following my videos enough, you already know the right decisions are easy to make. It's quite literally simply a matter of making them. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video today. Just figured I'd knock one out after knocking out the leaves. Just sitting here with my cat Wayne. We're just chilling together and sharing big thinking ideas with you guys. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section, or you can send me a direct message. Like, comment, or subscribe. And of course, if there is a video idea that you have that you'd like me to cover, I'd be delighted to do so. So feel free to do that. And short of that, I'll see you guys again in the next video.